guys, I'm here today to do Jackson's 1 month update. He is already a month old. On May 30th, he turned 1 month. And I have this book here that I am writing down everything in for Jackson. And I meant to grab Jane's book, but when Jane was born, I was obsessed with writing down everything that happened to her. Her first cough, her first sneeze, you know, just crazy stuff like that, you know, and then obviously some good stuff too, like how she was eating and when she was sleeping and her first smile and her first laugh and her first words and everything. So I basically wanted to do the same thing with Jackson, and each month I also write just a little letter to him, so whenever he gets old enough to want to read this, I think he would be interested in reading what I wrote in here, I hope. Jane and Jackson's Nana, my mom, has also written in Jane's a few times, and Chris has maybe written in it. So there's basically, I just wrote down his stats from when he was born and his name and how we found out we were pregnant. I wrote down my weight gain on here just because I wrote it down in Jane's book thinking that I would want to look back on it during my second pregnancy, and I did. So I have it on here, and also I think that, I don't know, he might find this interesting later on down the road. And then his initial weight loss and gain in the first few weeks of his life. And then his birth story, basically just really quick written down. And then for the first month I did week by week what happened each week, and then after that I'm just gonna do monthly. And how I keep track of this is I just write everything in the notes on my phone. So anytime something happens, I'll write it down really quick in my phone, and then each month when the month is over, I go ahead and transfer it into this book. So it might be a little bit monotonous, but I have my book, and then I also have my blog. If you guys want to look at my blog, just basically has a lot of pictures of the kids and things that we do. A lot of times big activities that I do blog about, I also have videos on my YouTube about it too, so it's kind of the same thing. But if you guys want to see some pictures that I don't necessarily put on my videos, you can go on there. I'll link my blog below. But I do monthly updates on there too with the same thing, and then I'm doing monthly updates with you guys. So for me, it is monotonous. I'm writing it down here, I'm typing it in a blog, and now I'm telling you guys. But I want to make sure I have all the information. So if we ever lose this, heaven forbid, then I have it in a video form and also on my blog. And each year for my blog, I print out my blog into a book. So I have year by year my blog in a book as well. So enough about that. I was gonna have Jackson in this video, but he fell asleep. But he's right next to me, so if he wakes up, I will show him to you guys. But I'm just gonna go right into everything that happened this month that I can remember and the things that I wrote down. As you guys know, with the breastfeeding, long story short, I'm doing exclusive pumping right now. He eats every 3 hours and like once at night. I don't really feel like waking him up, but sometimes I do wake him up at night if I'm already pumping and I know that he probably needs to eat at some point, so I just wake him up and then he sleeps for the rest of the night. So that is what's happened in the past month with breastfeeding. If you want to see more about that in depth, you can go to my breastfeeding video update that I posted I think a few days ago, and you can hear more about that then. During week 1, he was a very good nurser, a lot better than Jane was. My milk was coming in great, so that was very interesting and a very different experience that I did enjoy. So I wrote that down. He also loves to have his hands in his face. A lot of times it was hard for me to nurse him because I would try to hold him and get him ready, and then he would be putting his hands in his face all the time, and he still likes to have his hands up. I do swaddle him at night, so that keeps his hands down, just so that he doesn't have that startle reflex and wakes himself up. And he does like to be swaddled, I think. I mean, he sleeps really good in the swaddle, but when he's not swaddled, his hands are always up, whether they're here or in his face. I even have a picture with him like this in his face. So he just likes his hands near his face. I'm not sure, maybe he was like that when he was in the womb. So also, he loves sucking on everything and anything. I know a lot of babies do have that sucking reflex. That's why we give them passies a lot of times. But he was nursing so good, eating so good, and then even after that, he would want to be sucking on something. So we gave him the Passy really early. I think we gave it to him on his first day of life in the hospital, so he sucked on that all the time. He found his thumb on his first day of being alive, and then I think like the second or third day, he even found one of his fingers to suck on. So he just always likes to suck on things. Let's see, what else? Oh, he is a really, really smiley baby, and it just melts my heart, you guys. So Jane, as much as a happy girl she is now, she didn't smile very much when she was really little, and I didn't even get a picture of her smiling on camera until she was about like 2 months old. But Jackson smiles all of the time, and I know when they're this little, a lot of times it's gas, and he does have a lot of gas, which I'll get to that in a second. But every single time after he eats, when I'm holding him to burp him, or if I'm just like holding him or looking at him, he flashes me about 4 or 5 smiles each time after he eats, and it's just the most precious thing. And I usually get my camera out to take pictures, so I have a ton of pictures of him smiling. And then sometimes he just randomly smiles even if he hasn't just eaten. So he is just a smiley baby. I hope he stays that way. Jane is doing so good. I have a video of that, her transition to being a big sister. She is obsessed with Jackson, you guys. She is such a big help. She wants to pick him up all the time, which is kind of scary. She loves to give him his Passy. She likes to put his blanket on him, and she just likes to help with everything. And she's always asking where he is if I don't have him, and she's just doing great. So I wrote that down in his little book. He met his Nana and his Mimi and his Papa and Jane on his first day of life in the hospital. And then he met his Pappy and his Uncle Dave that next Saturday, which when he was 2 days old. And he also met his Uncle Dylan and his Aunt Jen when he was 1 day old. As soon as we got home from the hospital, they were here to meet him. So that was fun that they got to meet him when he was so little. When we had Jane, our family wasn't in Texas with us, so it wasn't until Jane was about like a week old that our family got to meet her. So it was very fun to have people come into the hospital and see him, and you know, just 1 and 2 days later. Also, he met his great-grandmother. My grandma, my mom's mom, came with my dad and Uncle Dave when he was 2 days old. So this might not, you guys might not be interested in when he met everybody, but I do want to document it, and I'm just reading everything that I have in his little book so that he knows when he met everybody. I wrote down that he poops a lot, and this is week 1, so obviously week 1 they do poop a lot. If you've ever had a newborn, you know they basically poop after they eat every single time, and eating every 3 hours, that's a lot of poop. And since then, now that he's a month old, he doesn't poop as much, but he definitely was pooping a lot. His newborn photographer got pooped on a ton of times in like the 2 hours that we were there. It was crazy. River and Hannah, our 2 dogs, are adjusting really well to Jackson. This time around, it's been a lot different. I think it was a big shock when we brought Jane home. They were kind of really protective of her, and whenever I was on the couch with her, they would come up and look at her and want to always be next to her. And with Jackson, I think they're kind of like, oh, another human, and they just don't really pay much attention to him this time around. And it's probably also because Jane is around a lot and running around and everything is chaos, so they don't really have the chance to sit next to me and look at him, but they kind of just don't even pay much attention to him yet. I did go to one appointment when he was 3 days old to the pediatrician. He was born at 7 pounds 12 ounces, and when we left the hospital, he had lost a little bit of weight. He was 7 pounds 10 ounces, so he had only lost 2 ounces, which is pretty good for weight loss for babies. Whew, there's like a bug. But then at 3 days old, he was 7 pounds 14 ounces, so in 3 days he gained 4 more ounces, and that was the 55th percentile. And he was 21 inches, which that's what he was born at, and that's 77th percentile for height. And his head was 13.5 inches around, which is the 30th percentile. So he's pretty average for his height and weight, and his head was a little bit small. No big deal. All babies are all different sizes. Okay, so week 2, on May 11th, he had his first sponge bath. We were trying to wait till his umbilical cord came off just to give him a full bath, because a lot of times when you do a sponge bath at first, they don't like it because they get really cold because you can't submerge them all the way into the water. So I was kind of trying to avoid that, but he was getting pretty stinky with milk and, you know, all these poop diaper changes and stuff. So we decided to give him a sponge bath. He definitely cried a lot, and I have that on video for you guys if you want to see that video as well. And then his umbilical cord fell off the very next day, which I think happened with Jane as well, or hers fell off like right before we were supposed to give her a sponge bath. And since then, he's loved bath time. He loves being in the water now that we can submerge him all the way under, and we, you know, wet like a little washcloth and put it on his belly so he's warm the whole time, and he doesn't cry anymore, so he really likes it. We celebrated our first Mother's Day together. Obviously it's not my first Mother's Day, but it's my first Mother's Day with Jackson, so that was fun. A lot of things happened on Mother's Day. He met his uncle Mike and his Aunt Rachel. They came over to visit, and also that is when I started to pump. So I wasn't exclusively pumping then because I was still trying to get him to latch on, but on Mother's Day was the first time that I had pumped. So that was like right when he was starting to refuse to nurse at all. His first outing, besides his newborn photos, we had to go out for that, and besides his pediatrician appointment, we went on our first outing with him, and that was to lunch for Mother's Day. So that was another Mother's Day fun activity. And he did good. He just slept in his car seat while we had our lunch. He had his first photo shoot, the newborn photo shoot, when he was exactly 1 week old, and that was a lot of fun. We got a lot of great pictures. That was on May 7th. He folded his hands for the first time. I know that's a little bit crazy to document, but I just think it's so cute when babies fold their hands like that. And I don't know a lot of babies that do, but it's funny because Jane folded her hands just like this when she was about a week old too, and I have a picture of it. And so I took a picture of Jackson doing it too, and it's just the cutest thing ever. His neck is really, really strong. At 2 weeks old, he can hold his neck up for a good 10 seconds. And now, even when he's a month old, it's even longer than that. His legs aren't too strong yet. Like, he doesn't push down. I don't know when that's supposed to happen, but I remember Jane's legs being really strong. So, but his neck is super strong, and he likes to look around, you know, and it's still wobbly, obviously, but it's very strong. He had his first stroller ride on May 13th. We got a new stroller, the Baby Trend Sit and Stand, and it's a double stroller, and Jane rides in the front, and he's in his car seat in the back. And we just strolled around the little neighborhood with our dogs, and it was a nice evening out, so he enjoyed being pushed in the stroller. And then I just documented that he still drinks. He drinks about 3 to 4 ounces. Now that I was pumping, I could see how many ounces. 3 to 4 ounces every 3 hours, and then once in the middle of the night. In the middle of the night feeding kind of varied about ounces. It was either like 1 or 2 ounces, or he would drink 4 ounces. Some nights were more than others, so I didn't really write that down. And then week 3, he is a lot more alert during his wake times, and his wake times are a lot longer. Week 1 and 2, I don't remember Jane sleeping so much, but he basically slept all the time. It was a miracle if we saw his eyes. I remember anytime we would see his eyes, Jane would say, "There's his eyes," and we would take all these pictures of him looking around because it was crazy how much he slept. And again, I don't remember Jane doing that. I'm sure she did. But so week 3 was right about the time that he started to really just be awake longer periods of time. And when I say longer, maybe like 10, 20 minutes. And he was more alert. His eyes were a lot wider and looking around and trying to take everything in. On May 15th, we changed him to a size 1 diaper. So that was at 3 weeks. I probably didn't have to change him right away to the size 1, but I had run out of the newborn diapers, and we had size 1 here. And his weight was in the range of the size 1 diapers. I can't remember. I think it's like 8 pounds to something. So we just changed him over to size 1. So it wasn't like he was definitely out of the newborn. We just didn't have any left. So we set him down on his little play mat, you know, like a little mat with the like little toys that go over for the first time on May 18th. I thought he was a little young to do that. I'm not sure when you're supposed to start doing that, but our pediatrician said that we could, and asked us also if we were doing tummy time. So we did tummy time for the first time on May 18th as well, and he likes tummy time. He was doing a lot of tummy time on my chest as well, and on Chris's chest when we held him, so it wasn't like he wasn't doing any of it. But now we set him on his little boppy, and he does tummy time there, and Jane likes to do tummy time with him. And then when we set him on the play mat, I don't even think he can see the toys quite yet, and he kind of just lays there and gets bored really easily, but we put him on there about once a day just so it's a little change of scenery. And also on May 18th, we went to another doctor appointment. It was his 2-week checkup, even though he was about 3 weeks old, and he was already 9 pounds. So just in 1.5 weeks, he went from 7 pounds, 14 ounces to 9 pounds. And that was still the 55th percentile. And then he was still 21 inches, which is the 61st percentile. And then his head grew 1 inch, and he was in the 48th percentile then. And we haven't gone back to the doctor yet, so I know that he's a lot more than 9 pounds now. Well, I don't know about a lot more, but he's more than 9 pounds. This was on May 18th, and obviously now it's June 2nd today, so I know that he weighs a lot more, and he just looks a lot more big. Okay, week number 4, we went to Beaufort, our beach house, for Memorial Day weekend. We also went to Bluffton, so that was his first time away from home. We went to Beaufort, the Beaufort house. He saw the ocean for the first time, even though his eyes were closed, so he was at the ocean for the first time. And that's a really big deal for our family because both Chris and I grew up near the ocean, so that was a really big deal. We took him to Bluffton on May 24th for the first time. That's where my parents live and my brothers live. And he met Charlie, my parents' dog, for the first time, so that was really exciting. He's definitely part of the family. I also documented that Jackson is very gassy, burps a lot, and he toots a lot. And I'm still not exactly sure what's going on with him. We're probably gonna ask the pediatrician when we get there next, or maybe you guys can comment down below what you think he might have. We got him some gas drops and they don't seem to work very much. And I've changed the way that I feed him the bottle. I sit him upright a little more in hopes that maybe that helps. But I also think that he might have silent reflux, because a lot of times if he's laying back, he'll gag on something and then it looks like he's swallowing something that tastes bad, and it's after I've already fed him. He's not even eating, and he just gets really fussy a lot in between feedings. So I think that he might have silent reflux, but it's not too bad where he's screaming in discomfort yet. So I'm probably gonna wait for our next pediatrician appointment, but if it gets a lot worse and it like hinders his sleep, then I will have to go before then, because our next doctor appointment isn't until 2 months. So it's in like 3 weeks from now. But I did document that he was very gassy. He is still in newborn clothes, and they're getting small though, so he's going to be in 0 to 3 very soon, but a lot of the 0 to 3 are still kind of baggy on him. He's still in size 1 diapers, and he drinks every 3 hours still during the day, but now he can go up to 5 ounces, so it's between like 3 and 5 ounces usually, and once still at night. And at night now he only drinks about 2.5 ounces before he's ready to go back to sleep. So he's lessening the nighttime feedings, and he's increasing the daytime feedings, and he's doing that all on his own, which is kind of impressive. He loves to have his head rubbed. I wrote that down. Usually when I swaddle him at night, I'll rock him a little bit. We don't have the rocking chair down here, so I just stand up and hold him, but I rub his head back and forth, and it makes him close his eyes, and it looks like he's enjoying it a lot. So I do that, and it helps him to go to sleep. Oh, I just wrote down, we're trying to figure out the silent reflux thing, and we're also trying different bottles to see if maybe that's making him gassy, or you know, if we just need to use a different bottle if he's getting air bubbles. Maybe it's not silent reflux, I don't know. And also Jane has a little bit of a cold, so I'm not sure if maybe he has a little bit of a cold too, and maybe that's what it is instead of the silent reflux. So we're just kind of waiting it out, and like I said, he doesn't seem like he's in super bad pain or anything, and obviously he's sleeping great right now, and he's sleeping great at night, so knock on wood, hopefully it's not anything major and it'll just pass soon. But that's all of the things that I have on his 1 month little book here, and he's just a great baby so far. He still sleeps a lot. When he's awake, we try to pay attention to him a lot. Obviously with a 2.5-year-old, it's hard to give him full attention because she needs a lot of attention as well, but she does like to help out a lot with him, so that's good, and she can help him give bath and stuff like that, so that helps with a lot of the attention. We kind of just include her in the things that we're doing with him, so that's how we kind of get around that for now. But we can't wait to see how he is in month 2. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and let me know in the comments if you guys experience silent reflux with your babies, or gas problems, or how you figured out if it was silent reflux. He doesn't spit up, so that's why I think it is the silent reflux and not just regular reflux. And I don't even know if it's that. I have no idea. All I'm doing is Googling. I haven't talked to any doctors or anything yet. So let me know in the comments your experiences with that, if you do have that or know anything about it. I would really appreciate it. So I love you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.